Welcome back to Picks and Roll DFS. It's Sunday, September 28th, and we've got another WNBA playoff slate on deck. Quick bankroll tip before we get into picks. Playoff games bring more variance. Rotations shrink, defenses key in, and that means role players can vanish while stars either explode or get shut down. So stay disciplined with your units and lean on data-driven edges. Now, there's two games today, but with head coach of the Lynx getting suspended for the game and Collier out, I don't know how this game is going to go in terms of either a quick blowout from Phoenix or other players stepping up in the absence of two major people in their, in the league and on their team for the Lynx. So kind of staying away from that one. And the three of our picks for today are going to stay from the Fever and Aces game. With that being said, our first play is going to be Chelsea Gray going higher than 8.5 rebounds and assists. As we can see here, she has cleared this line in 5 straight. In fact, in 10 straight, averaging nearly 11 and a median of 10 over that stretch. Now, we can see that in terms of guards, Indiana ranks top 3 in rebounds and assists allowed to guards. And with defenses collapsing on Asia Wilson, Gray has plenty opportunities to rack up peripherals. We can also see that in the last few games, we can see that Chelsea Gray is the one that has cashed more consistent in the playoffs in terms of the last few games. And with this possibly being the closeout game for the Aces and at home, and if we look, as we always do the line comparison, we can see that FanDuel has this at minus 130. PrizePicks has this as the Goblin at minus 137. ESPN Bet at minus 165, and Underdog at minus 164. All of these factors make this one of the best plays for today's game. Chelsea Gray going over 8.5 rebounds and assists. Now, before we get into our next play, want to give a shout out to Betr. Right now, they have a deal going on where you'll get a free $10 on sign up. Plus, you can get up to $200 in bonus funds with a 50% match on your first deposit. They'll also give you a Jordan Love free pick, where he only needs to have 1 passing yard to win. When you sign up for Betr, use code DIME and email me a screenshot to picksandrolldfs@gmail.com, and you'll get a free month in my winnable. Will your score easy wins as I'll send you plays to your phone every single day. Our next play is going to be Melissa Smith going lower than 5.5 rebounds. Now, normally when we're looking at these types of plays, we're looking at the last 5, last 10. If we have the last 20 and the year matchup data, we're going to use all of that. But as we talked about there being huge variance in the playoffs, you'll see why that makes the smaller sample size makes a bigger difference so far in the playoffs, which is kind of why we've been hitting that like 2-1 lately, because the variance does make a big difference, especially when we get to our last play. So Melissa Smith going lower than 5.5 rebounds. She did have one game, and we'll see it in a minute, where she exceeded all of her previous lines, but regretting to the means, I believe that she will kind of fall back to where she normally plays. We can see this line is a favorite on FanDuel at minus 130, as well as DraftKings, and at Caesars minus 136, Sleeper minus 147, Underdog minus 186. Huge favorite. And we can see why when we look at the last 5, where she's cashed this line 3 out of 5 times. And you can see like these outliers here, 1 game in the Seattle series, 1 game in the Fever series, and then otherwise pretty much low the rest of those games. This is that game I was talking about where she went above and beyond the expectations. It was an outlier game for her, no pun intended. And then we can see the following game, she went back to kind of her status quo in terms of her production. Now, she's averaging about 25 minutes. She did get a little bit more in the last two games, but that doesn't necessarily equate to more stats. Now, this is a closeout game for the Aces. That does not mean that the Fever are just going to lie down. They're probably going to play their best game of the season, win or go home. So I truly believe that the minutes, it's not like she's going to get an explosion of minutes because it's a blowout. I think the minutes should stay around the same. Now, in these games, she's averaging overall about 4.2 boards per game. And we can look at the head-to-head. Now, earlier in the season, July, she had some great games against the Fever. But again, looking at the playoffs, things change. Just talked about like role players and production. And we can see that the stars are the ones who are dominating the stats. We did have just this one. But overall, if we look at the season, she averages under 5.5. And then in the last 5, she averages exactly 5. We can also see that in terms of Indiana's defense against forwards, specifically rebounds allowed, they rank second, which also supports the fact that Nalissa Smith is highly likely, especially in addition to these lines, that she is highly likely to go under or go lower than 5.5 rebounds. Now, we got one more play for today, but I also want to give a shout out to Underdog. Right now, amazing deal. You're going to get $100 in bonus funds when you play just $5. Here, if you use code LOB when you sign up, send me a screenshot to Picks and Roll DFS. You can also get a month of free plays in my VIP with that screenshot. They're also going to give you a gimme pick for today, which is going to be Dak Prescott. So you add Dak Prescott to one of your favorite plays from today's video. Then you can also branch these out into their own 3-man. You're building your row easily. Use the gimme pick from one of your favorite plays from here. Then play this separately as a 3-man. 2 wins in a row. Easy way to start off your bankroll on Underdog. Then you'll get more free plays in your VIP winnable account if you sign up with me. Again, just sign up on the Underdog, use code LOB, email me a screenshot to picksandrolldfs@gmail.com. Our last play for today is going to be Natasha Howard going lower than 8.5 minutes. In the last game, we expected her to go over just because she's been a highly productive player on this team the majority of the year, as we can see here, where she's averaging 11. Has a median of 11 as well. Head-to-head, she's killed it the majority of the season, going well above her lines, especially like in points. Last 20, we can see a little bit lower at 9.5. And last 10, still averaging above this line. And then last 5, even averaging above this line here. Now here's the caveat. Last game, we expected her to go above her line. What happened is a significant drop in minutes, as we see here. She only played 14.6 minutes. Last few games, we can see since the 16th of September, there's been a slight drop-off in her minutes. I believe there's cause for some concern with this, and it may be that she's just not a good matchup in this series, not giving them what they need, and they're looking elsewhere. And with 14 minutes played, you're not getting a lot of shot attempts up. You have to play within the system, do the things that are needed for you to stay on the court. And apparently she is not doing that. And because of that, and looking at just the recent data in terms of the Aces defense and points allowed against similar Natasha Howard plus similar players like Natasha Howard, all going below their lines for the most part. This being that closeout game, I think they're going to rely more on Aaliyah Boston, and Natasha Howard's minutes are going to continue to decline, and we're going to see this continuation of the last two games against the Aces, where she's only gotten 6 points and 5 points, and unfortunately, she's going to stay below this line of 8.5, and more than likely, the Aces are going to move on to the WNBA Finals. You can see that a lot of these DFS platforms also agree, as they have FanDuel has this play at minus 125, ESPN Bet at minus 125 as well, DraftKings at minus 130, BetMGM minus 130, Caesars minus 134. All of this, especially the minutes and the most recent production in this series, all lead us to believe that Natasha Howard will not be the normal player that we've seen in the regular season, and will stay below this line for this next game and the last game of this season. So to recap, we have Chelsea Gray going higher than 8.5 rebounds plus assists. Nalissa Smith going lower than 5.5 rebounds. Natasha Howard going lower than 8.5 points. Lock these in, play smart, and let's keep putting that roll. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's cash this Sunday, and as always, let's build that roll.